What's up, guys? Welcome back to another daily Bible reading snapshot. Today we're going to see Absalom and his big plan to take out King David and to steal the throne. We're going to see all that drama played out today in 2 Samuel 15 and 16. The majority of all of this is going to take place where Absalom starts to try to get favor with the people. Basically, there's 3 steps in taking out David as king. First step for Absalom is he wants to get the people to like him more than his dad. Which part of what that looks like is he wants to get among the people. He wants to be answering their questions. He wants to be helping them in such a way where he draws their hearts away from David as king, and they want Absalom to be king. That's step 1. Step 2 is to get the men of the nation to want to declare him king, to get them willing. Are you willing to say that I'm king instead of David? And he starts to gain favor with the people, say, I guess, yeah, we will make you king. That was step 2. Step 3 is to go take Jerusalem, the capital city. So what we're going to see in chapter 15 is they basically do almost all of that. They just don't do step 3 completely. David finds out he and his family, they walk away from Jerusalem. And as they're going, there's some people who hate David, who have never liked David, who yell horrible things at him. One guy is named Shimei. We're going to see how he yells terrible things as he's going through the city here, and as he's leaving and going across the Jordan, the Kidron Valley, as David leaves the city, he's going to have people that are yelling terrible things at him. And there's even some opportunities that he can have to return evil for evil, but he's definitely learned his lesson. He does not return evil for evil. He even protects the people who are cursing him because he says, who knows? Maybe God told them to curse me. I don't know, because this is terrible. I feel like I'm cursed for sure, so I'm going to take whatever God gives me here, and I'm going to do the best I can with it. This is a horrible time because in chapter 16, we get this weird incident where as David flees and Absalom comes into play, we see that people are lying about other people. We have Ziba lying about Mephibosheth, his master. We see Shimei cursing David. We see Hushai, on the other hand. He is going to be one of David's allies, and he's going to stay in the city and be basically a spy for David. So it's a lot of bad wartime stuff that's starting to go on here. And I think the big lesson we see is as Absalom comes in and David leaves, Absalom is doing evil things, David is doing righteous things. How do you think this is going to turn out? What do you think God's going to do? You think God's going to bless the unrighteousness of Absalom and curse the righteousness of David? That's not how it's going to go. God is going to bless David for his righteousness and bring back all the evil that Absalom does. He's going to bring it all back on his head. And that's what we're going to see in the next few chapters. So let's turn to the New Testament. Let's look at today the end of Luke 20. We started with a bunch of questions that were asked to Jesus. We're going to get more questions here. This is actually question number 3 that's brought up against Jesus. And this one is by the Sadducees. The Sadducees were this religious group of people who were actually not very religious, but they had a religious identity, at least in Jerusalem, and especially in Jerusalem, in the Jewish structure. And their idea was they were the theological liberals, which that basically means they didn't trust the whole Bible. They only trusted some parts of the Bible. They kind of picked and chose, and when they did that, they took things out of the standard doctrine that even the Pharisees held to that they didn't believe in. And one of those things was the resurrection. They did not believe in the resurrection because when they looked at Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy, those are the only 5 books they even counted as scripture from God. They did not see the resurrection in those, so they didn't believe in a resurrection. Now, in the book of Daniel and the prophets, there's much more about the resurrection, much more about the idea that when we die, we're going to live again. So they asked Jesus this hypothetical situation. What happens if this lady marries 7 different men in her lifetime? And one dies, and another dies, and she gets remarried, and then he dies, and then she gets remarried, and he dies. Who is going to be this lady's husband in the resurrection? And they thought they stumped Jesus with this. And what Jesus said is, you don't even understand what it's going to be like in the resurrection. People are not going to be married or given in marriage. That's a false doctrine. If you think people are going to be married in eternity, that's not going to be the case. We find out in the New Testament, the only marriage that goes on in eternity is the marriage between Jesus and his church. And what we see here is he proves to them from their own scriptures. It says he quotes the book of Moses. That's the Torah, Genesis to Deuteronomy. He says, God is the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Is God the God of the dead or of the living? Because it seems like when he says that, it's very present tense that he's the God of Abraham, and Abraham must be alive, and Isaac and Jacob, even though they were dead, but yet they were alive. What does that say? Well, I guess that says that our souls will live on after death. So he proves the resurrection even from the book of Moses, which I just think it's so awesome the way that Jesus does this. Obviously, Jesus is smarter than them. This is a bad question for the Sadducees to ask Jesus. Jesus is definitely going to give them the answer. But it's cool that the Bible has answers. And I think that's a helpful takeaway just from that little section. The Bible has answers. And it leads to more because Jesus actually asks a question from the Bible to everybody. Not just the Sadducees, but also the Pharisees and the scribes and the Herodians who are there, and the Romans. He has a question to everybody. And the question is, how can they say that the Christ is David's son? Because in the Bible, in the Old Testament, in Psalm 110, it says, "The Lord said to my Lord, sit at my right hand until I make your enemies your footstool." David thus calls him Lord. So how is he his son? What Jesus is trying to ask is, okay, you guys say that David is greater than the Messiah, that he's, there's a son relationship there. Well, then how come in Psalm 110, David calls the Messiah his Lord? It's a reversal there. Jesus shows that he actually is the one who has the power and the authority, even more than David does. I just think about how mind-blowing that would be. If you did not understand that about the Bible, this was huge. This was so important. And I think what we see again is we see people not embracing Jesus as the king that he is. People were not listening to him as the king that he was. They were not submitting to him as the king that he was. Furthermore, it goes on in verses 45 to 47 to talk about all these people who were hypocritical. They were people pleasers. All they wanted to do was to be liked by everybody else. They didn't care about obeying God from the heart. The people who care about obeying God from the heart, they're the people that will recognize Jesus as the king. That was true then. It's also true now. We want to recognize Jesus as king. I know that's been the big theme in the New Testament for the last few days, but we need to recognize Jesus as king and live like he's king. So make sure you read the whole daily Bible reading today. I know this is just a snapshot, so this is not the full meal. This is just a snapshot. Make sure you read the daily Bible reading today. You're not going to want to miss out. So thanks for joining us. We'll see you back tomorrow for another daily Bible reading snapshot.